for? Seed starting. So we are a little bit early. I want to say that you can absolutely start seeds now. You can start seeds whenever you want. Start them in August, November, December. But the main objective, what we're looking for to start seeds, is to ideally get them in the garden. That's for the vast majority of people. People aren't looking to start a tomato to grow it in the house. You absolutely can. You need the right conditions, lighting, etc., etc. But the vast majority of us are looking at starting our seeds now so that when the garden season starts, we have these fully formed plants to be able to put outside. So that's what we want to talk about. And it is early right now. If you've got the room to keep them going and transplant them and get them going, you can absolutely start now. You'll get a harvest earlier rather than later. But for some people where time and space might be an issue, might be a little early. If you go to our website and go to our how-to section, we have a seed starting guide there. So you can look up tomatoes. And right there, it'll tell you when is the window you want to start your tomatoes, as advised by seed experts, and let you get ahead with that. So I have my notes here, and these are just to keep me on track. It's basically all I do is print out the PowerPoint so I can keep up. And I believe Brandy has it set up so you can look at the PowerPoint, or you can look at me, or do it both.
Yeah, so I'm going to share the PowerPoint right now so that everyone's on the same page. And then if you want to look at Colin, click on his face. And if you want to see the PowerPoint, click on the PowerPoint. But again, the PowerPoint will be available on our blog post later on our website. So don't feel like you have to follow along, but it's there if you need it.
Perfect. Okay. So first things first, let's start with the basics. And that is, what is a seed? And a seed is just an embryonic plant. It is a result of fertilization, pollination, as it's often referred to, of a plant that develops a seed. Nearly every single plant undergoes this process. Might be different. Not everything puts out a flower and has pollination. Conifers, great example of that. But the ones we're talking about today are actual seeds, and I've got these, so I'm going to be planting some seeds. I already opened them on Global this morning, and we're going to be planting these little tomatoes, million, they're a cherry tomato, and those are the seeds. Is that showing up, Randy? I've kind of got that.
A little up.
Little up?
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. So as you can see, they're tiny. I think most of us know what a tomato seed looks like from cutting open a tomato. All that is in there is the seed coat, the embryo, and the food stalk. And that's basically what makes up a seed. It's just this tiny, tiny little thing. But from that seed, we're going to reap a huge, huge benefit, which is our plant. So, should have separated these earlier. I'm having trouble opening things today. Did you notice that? Like my pages are stuck together. There we go. So what do the parts of the seed do? The seed coat, the first part we'll talk about, is literally the hard outer coating. If we think about it, and I'm not going to start them because it's way too early, one I think most people can identify is a sunflower seed. We know what they like to eat them. So that part that you crack and you spit out, that's the seed coat. And all that's there for is to protect the plant. It's to protect the insides, which is the food source and the embryo. And once we add moisture and heat, those two things, once we add those, that seed coat starts deteriorating. Then it allows the food source and the embryo to mix. And hey, presto, we get a plant. So the embryo, that contains everything, the DNA, everything we need to grow a tomato 4 foot, 8 foot tall tomato plant, I should say, not a tomato fruit. That would be a massive fruit. I'm not Roald Dahl. This isn't Tommy and the Giant Tomato. That's the sequel I'm going to write. But the tomato plants, easily some of them can get 8 foot tall. But everything is in that seed is what we need to grow that tomato. And the food store, and this part is really important. It's something that we don't need to really consider. But the food store is what's going to feed that. So I get asked a lot of times about fertilizing seeds. They do not need it. You can do often, you will do more harm than good fertilizing a seed or a seedling. Everything it needs to get going is in that seed coat. No matter how tiny it might look to us, everything it needs is in there to get growing. So that's where germination comes in. And germination is basically it's a chemical process that is brought about by warmth and moisture affecting the seed. And what happens is our seed coat breaks down. So our seeds have been dormant for however long. Sometimes they can pop up right away. Small period of dormancy. Sometimes they require a long period of dormancy. But essentially, the moisture and the heat react together. They break down the seed coat, and then that food source affects the embryo. And basically now it's feeding. It's much like the umbilical cord on a baby. Right now, hey presto, things are moving. And what'll end up happening is the first thing, and you won't see this. I mean, you can. We've done it before where we've broken it open. But you're not going to see this part. Is the very first thing that'll happen. It's radical, and I'm not just making that up. It actually is a radical, and that is that first tiny little root that's going to come out, and that root is going to be able to pull up more moisture. Then it's going to send out a cotyledon, and the cotyledon is just a very fancy word for the first leaf of any plant. So if you've grown from seed before, you probably noticed, doesn't matter what you're growing, tomatoes, peppers, marigolds, sunflowers, that first seed is, or the first leaf, sorry, is always kind of an elliptical, a round-shaped leaf. That is your cotyledon. That's purpose. Its entire purpose is to get photosynthesis happening immediately. It comes out the soil, gets the light comes onto it, and it feeds the root. Ergo, we've started photosynthesis. That root then develops more. That radical now becomes a root, pulls up more moisture. The plant now has the energy to send out more leaves. Hey presto, we now have what's gone from being, a germination to a seedling. And that's basically how that goes. Every plant is basically starting the same. Again, there are always exceptions, but we're not talking about the exceptions here. We're kind of talking about the ones we need to focus on. So all of the seeds that we're going to be starting, that's basically how the process goes. Coat breaks down, the food feeds the embryo sends out a radical sends out a cotyledon, bam. From there, the process begins. And it's, again, still so gentle. We don't need to fertilize. However, when we have our seed, and we're going to do this, we're going to plant today as well. We're going to show you that. But once the seed is in the ground, or in the soil, I should say, it does not require light. That, like I've said, it's heat and moisture. But once that cotyledon comes up and it opens, that's where you need light. If you don't have light, it's not going to get past that stage. So once that comes out, you need the light. We will get to that part, I promise. Okay, coffee break. So again, what is needed to germinate a seed? Now, again, there are other ways. Some people, and this works great. Now, it is trickier. I've done it before. You can take paper towel. You can take your spray bottle and you can all over your paper towel, put it in a Ziploc bag, put the Ziploc bag over a heater. Hey presto, you're going to get germination. Then, however, you've got to move it off the paper towel and plant it. They're tiny seedlings. I've got big, clumsy hands. I'm going to make a mistake. I would much rather use a heat mat soil, and a seedling tray. So that's the way we're going to talk, and that's most people. I know some people do like that other method. It requires an extra step. Requires being very delicate. I don't have the time or the patience for that, but it is just literally that. But when you break it down, all that's happening there is you are again giving the seed moisture and heat. That's it. You can replicate that and have it growing in the soil. So what you need for germination is, first of all, you need seeds, a good growing medium. So I've got the seed starting one here. I like it. It's very loose, it's very porous, so it allows that first radical to not get any resistance. It's got a mycorrhiza in it. It's going to help feed the seed. It's really good stuff. That's why we go to it for that. You need your growing containers. We got peat moss. We've got our plastic ones. We need a tray. We need a heat source. That's going to be our heat mat. We will discuss that further on. We need moisture. I got my spray bottle. Great, now my glasses have got water spots. We need light. I grabbed one of these. Again, some people have enough light in their place. Some people need a setup. Some people just want a setup. They don't trust the light. They go, what if it's going to be cloudy or overcast for 3 or 4 days? I'd rather have a light source to feel safe. That all works. We need a suitable area, and we're going to talk more on that. So, to begin, we need seeds, growing medium, and containers. Again, this isn't one size fits all. To give you an idea of why we're growing from seeds, all of these here, this entire bundle I picked, I took off of the rack behind me, not directly behind me. It's not that you can't see it. It's further back. All of these are tomatoes. We have prairie fire. Sounds like it's custom made here. Cayman, black crib, La Roma, mountain merit, another one that sounds perfect. Indigo rose. The list goes on and on. I'm not going to go through them all, but that is all tomatoes. So it's not one size fits all when you pick your seeds. These are all hot peppers. Okay. So you grow what is the one you want. You love barbecuing and you love your burgers and you like your beefsteaks. Grow beefsteaks. That's great. You like salads or doing platters, cherry tomatoes, grow beefsteaks and cherry tomatoes. It's whatever you want. So I'm not going to tell you what seed you're going to go with. We're going to go with the one I picked today. I'm giving them away, so I just pick a cherry. Most people like them. They're easy to deal with. That's why I picked those. So again, no right or wrong answer. The medium, I know some people use a potting mix. Some people use whatever's on hand. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. I do prefer this one. It is custom made for seeds. It is a great product for it. But again, if you've had success using a different potting blend or a blend that you make yourself with peat moss and perlites and mycorrhizas, maybe worm castings, whatever, you do that. Again, I'm not going to tell you, there's no absolutes here. You know, you want an absolute, that's botany. And that's the absolute when we're discussing here is that your seed simply will not germinate without moisture and without heat. And it won't be successful without light. Those are just scientific facts about plants. But when it comes to how we're going to plant and the medium and what we're planting, that is very much up to you. That's more the art of it. That's more putting it all together. Growing containers. I'm going to use plastic. I love the peat moss ones. I am starting these early, which means for at least 3 months, they're going to be sitting on a heat mat and getting moisture. This is going to start to break down. And what has happened to me before is I've gone to lift it up and it's crumbled in my hand and I'm running the risk of losing my seedling. So these are great if you're going from here, transplant straight outside. If it's going to be in for a long period of time, you might want to go with something more sturdy, which is a plastic one, which is what I'm using today. And again, I'm making that decision based on past experiences. There's no right and there's no wrong. Okay. And my notes here, again, they're just the PowerPoint. It's just so I can keep up. Now we have the warmth, and this is part of the chemical reaction. So if I remember chemistry, and I don't, most chemical reactions require heat to get going. I think there's that whole thing about cold fusion where you don't need the heat, blah, blah, blah. The vast majority, I mean, if you think about it, if we break it down, the reason there's life on this planet is because of the conditions to grow, is because of plants, is because of warmth. That all comes from the sun, which is just one giant heat source, one giant nuclear chemical reaction happening in the sky. However, we're not going to go too much into that because I don't really know all about that. So please do not direct questions on that. But chemical reactions require some sort of energy. A lot of times energy does come from the warmth. So that's where we are. This is going to help the seed coat break down. It's also going to help the plant form new cells. So a lot of times when you have a plant outside, there's two different ways of looking at it. If you're capable of watering and being attentive and whatnot, a black pot is great because it absorbs all the heat from the sun in the summer, gets those roots just popping, gets the top of the plant growing. Flip side of that is it causes it to dry out quicker, more roots, drinking more moisture, photosynthesis, get a bigger explosion. So if you can't keep up with it, you may want to go with a white pot. It's still going to be warm, but you're not going to get that same level of reaction. So that's where I stand with that. But again, it's whatever you want. That's why warmth is important. And then the moisture. Now this is a tricky one. I wish there was a way I could tell people. I get asked no matter what, houseplants, gardens, seeds. How often should I water? When should I water? And this is very much not one size fits all. Do you have them on a heat mat? Do you have them on a heat mat and you keep your house warm? Do you have a heat mat and you keep your house cool? No heat mat and your house is a little cool. No heat mat and your house is warm. All of those come into play when you're talking about it. Now, moisture again is very important because that's going to accelerate the breakdown of the coat and it's going to feed it. It's going to activate the enzymes in the food store, and it's going to make sure that your plant can start eating, start breaking that food down to feed the embryo. However, too much moisture, you run the risk of oversaturating the soil, which is going to suffocate the seed, and you can get mold damping off. Once you get that, it's essentially game over. I know people try. Some people with varying degrees of success have brought it back, but a lot of times you're delayed, you're stunted, you lose some growth. It can be really tricky. Best way to avoid it, start clean, keep an eye on your watering. It is better to water more frequently with less water than drowning them and hoping it'll be absorbed. So moisture is a very tricky one. We need it to activate the seed. We need it to activate the enzymes and to allow photosynthesis. Too much can cause suffocation and damping off, or seed mold is the other name for that we've heard. Okay, our heat level is great. Our water level is great. Everything is going the way we want. We get a cotyledon. Now we need light. Again, you might have an area that gets perfect sunlight, a big south-facing window. The seeds are going to love it. That's great. Not everybody has that. My office upstairs, where I'm going to be growing these seeds, is north-facing. I don't get any natural light. That's why I have so many grow lights in my office. Ones like this, great. It comes with clamps and hooks. You can literally suspend it under a counter. You can put it on strings and work on a pulley system. This is going to be just great for those seedlings to keep them going and give them enough light. Another great thing, if you want to really have a no-brainer, plug it into a timer. It's one less thing you have to think about. Life can get busy, and we can all be sitting at work, or in my case, sometimes at home, and be like, oh my God, I left the light on, or I forgot to turn the light off. Both can be detrimental. So putting your light on a timer is great. Like I said, this is going to enable photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, in a nutshell, is plant food. Fertilizer is a supplement. The medium is kind of like the base diet. The sunlight, what the plant requires, that gives it all of the sugars it needs to actively grow. That comes from photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is carbon dioxide, light, and water. Takes it in, it makes sugars, and spits out oxygen. That's what the plant is like. So the light is relatively easy. Now, this one is great. It's got it on the back. This is why I picked it. So you can see there kind of a distance you want to keep. So if you're looking at this, some people talk and they go, oh, my seedlings are getting really leggy. The light is too far away. So your light is up here, your seedling is only this big. It's stretching for that light, and you end up with too much space between your leaves. However, your light's down here, the plant's like, great, I got a ton of light. It grows too fast, hits the light, you burn those leaves, and again, you've stunted your growth or killed your seedling. So these all considerations. If your light is static, you can always put this bricks, blocks, pieces of wood, whatever, and lower this. You don't have to adjust the light. As long as you keep them moving so that your light isn't touching, but it's not too far away, you're in a good place for your light. Suitable area. Ideally, you want the same area to get you from start to finish. Plants don't like to be moved, even in their pots. They can undergo shock. We may not notice. Suddenly they've gone from 9 hours of sunlight a day down to 7, and they're a little shocked, they're a little stunted. Or we go to move it, and we disturb the soil. We pick it up, and we drop it. Ideally, one area. And that area, don't think of the area when you start. In a tray like this, I can do 72 plants, no problem. Okay, that's great. I do 2 of these, I have 144 plants. That's all the space I need to do that. However, I then have to transplant them to a 4-inch pot. We established in our podcast, by the way, that I can't do quick math off the top of my head. But 4 inches by 144 plants is a lot. That's the math I'm running with today. I could have prepared, but I'm going to say it because I was on Global in the podcast, I didn't do the math. It's quite simply that I forgot until this point, but let's go with my better excuse. Ideally, you want to look at the area for when you finish the process, not for when you begin. When you begin, you're like, oh, it's nice and small, it's compact, this is great. You transplant, you're like, oh no, I don't have the room. And you're moving them, now they're not getting enough light. Now you've got to water here, you've got to go there, you may forget. So if you stay focused on what you need for a finish, that's the best. You want the area to be clean, you want it to be open, you want it to be well lit, and you want good airflow to the point where you may even set up a fan. Again, that's also going to help with seed mold, damping off, whatever name you want to give it. But again, if you're blowing air, it's going to dry out. So keep an eye on that moisture. Again, it's about finding the balance. So that's what we're focusing on. And I do want to touch on something. A lot of times when people are checking their house plants or the plants on the deck outside, they'll stick their finger in. Try not to do that with your seed. One thing, it's very delicate. You push down here and it may fall over because it doesn't have a huge root structure. If it's still a seed and you stick your finger in, you may push the seed deeper. You do not want to do that. Always want to go to the correct depth. When to start, I already touched on that. I'm going to show you this, even though it is on a slide in case you're looking at me, or how to, all of the information you need. It's a great guide. We've got flowers, herbs, veggies, everything that you could be looking for should be included on that. If it's not, if you have questions, reach out to us. Shoot us an email. We're always available for that.
be available.
Of course you did, because you're awesome. So Brandy's like well ahead of me. Uh, I conditioned my hair. Sorry, I'm digressing, and it keeps falling in my face. Normally it felt like that. So
Would you ever do a man bun?
no, I don't. How long have you known me? When have you ever seen my hair in a ponytail or a man bun?
Wow.
Something like that. I don't even know how I look, and I feel weird. So, yeah, no, I don't do ponytails or man buns. I always wonder that when people have long hair, and they always pull it back, and it's like, why do you grow it long? Just cut it short. But anyway, you always wear your hair down too. Yeah, I rarely see your hair. Um, there we go. There we go. Love, we're on the same page. Uh, let's plant. So we've got that. So my area is already prepared. I have this staging area, stainless steel, very easy to sterilize and clean, no problem. This is actually, it's got soil in it, but this is actually clean. That's just hard water damage. But I do keep everything clean. Again, I want to avoid any fungus, any bugs, or anything like that. Always start clean. It's always a benefit to your plants. So I prepped some on here. I'm going to grow these for some friends and for our friends at Global. And we're going to keep an eye on them. We're going to monitor them, and then we're going to give them all away. It always makes me happy. So my area is prepared. My container, I'm only going to do this many, is laid out. Now I'm going to add my soil. So I'm using a scoop. Use your hand, use a cup, a small pot, whatever you want. And then all you're going to do is just pour some in, make it somewhat even. Brandy pointed it out. Great smell.
It smells so good.
It's a spring smell, the smell of the earth. Gotta love it. So all I'm going to do is dump that on there. Then I'm going to spread it out. Now, I am going to firm this down. But if you remember what I said, that first growth, that first process in germination is the radicle. Okay? Quite honestly, I think they could have given it a better name. It's a tiny root, like an eighth of an inch big, that happens underground that we don't see. Why would they call that radical? It's like literally the least radical thing. Growing a big, fat, juicy tomato, that's radical. That is like boring. I'm going to change the name. That root is now called the boring. And it bores into the soil. Oh, yeah, I'm not actually changing the name. I have neither the power nor the wherewithal to do that. So we will keep it as a radical. So what you can see here is when I firm it down, and you can see I'm just gently tapping it. I'm not pushing anything. I'm not firming it. All of my trays are at different depths. No problem. We're just going to top that up as needed. I'm just going to use my hand here, and I'm just going to put it in the ones that are a little empty. I don't want it filled right to the top because I want room for my water, for my moisture. Okay? So as you can see, again, I'm just firming it down. The reason I'm firming it is when I put my seed in, if that soil is loose, when the moisture hits, it's going to pull it down. Okay? If it's firm, when the moisture hits, the seed should stay at the level I want it to. They don't all have to be the same height. Again, this isn't rocket science. Okay? If one's a little bit lower, you just add a little bit more of our growing medium. And when I'm done, when you're done, when we're done, we should be looking at something like this. We can see it's very clearly still delineated. Delineated is the word I was going for there. So I can see my plants, I can see each one individually, and there's room in each one for moisture. Okay, now we're going to look at our seed. I'm going to read the back of it, and it says each seed needs to go down a ½ inch. Now, I already poured my seeds out, if you remember, right there. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my finger, push it down. I don't know if this will show up, but it's on the edge of my finger. Nope, can't see it. Trust me, it's there. I know, right? There's no way I can show, but it is there. Now, the reason I've done that is years and years ago, a lot of seeds need to be half inch or an inch. That's kind of the two measurements. There again are differences. Those are two very easy standards. So I measured my finger. I lost my seed. There it is. I measured my finger. From my fingertip to nail bed is half inch to the first joint is an inch, give or take. Okay, again, it's not an exact science. If it doesn't go to an exact half inch, a little deeper, a little higher, not the end of the world. But you don't want, if it says half inch, you don't want to go down to an inch. Reason for that, that food source, as it breaks down, has enough to get that cotyledon to the height it wants. If it's too deep, well, the birds just did a flyby. Settle down, Top Gun. Oh yeah, if it's too deep, it might not have the energy to break the surface. You're not going to get it. If it's too low, it might come up too high and then fall over because it doesn't have the stability. That's why we want to go to that depth. So I pick my seed up, get it on my finger, and I go right to the middle, okay, and I go down, and you can see, hopefully, I'm up to my nail bed. That's it. I bring it back. The soil I've displaced, I'm going to use that to cover, and I'm not going to firm that down. Just going to cover. So I planted a seed there. It looks no different than when I first planted. Okay? So I'm going to do each one now. Now, one tip I want to give here is when you're doing your seeds, and I'm going to just pick an easy number here, if I want 9 tomatoes, okay, that's how many I need in my garden, that's how many we're going to eat, etc., etc. I'm going to grow 18. I've got the seeds, and the reason I'm going to do that is very simply, they may not all germinate. If they germinate, one may die. I may damage it physically. I may go to move it when I'm watering, and I may break it. There's last year on GA Kids TV, I brought some seedlings down, went to show them to the camera, and they fell out of my hand. We did salvage them; they did grow, but that was luck. That wasn't because I have the skill or anything. I could have lost that entire tray. So it's very important that if you want 9, grow 18. If all 18 grow, dump the other 9 in the compost. Give them to friends. Brandy and I are two very different people here. I would rather sacrifice the 9 so I can focus all my time on my 9 that I want to keep. Okay, that's how my brain goes. Brandy is very much like, well, I've grown this plant. It is awesome. I don't want to kill it. I will give it away to friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and both answers are fine. If you can keep all 18, keep all 18. You don't need 18 for your garden, but you've got a great gift. And Mother's Day is in the spring. A lot of people like to get seeds for Mother's Day. Come on. There we go. Perfect. So that's it. I've just planted 9 seeds in that time. The rest I'm going to do later. I am going to grow 18. I don't need 9. I'm growing all of these to give away. I'll do my own personal seeds later. I don't. This year, actually, I think I'm going to do hot peppers. I've never done really hot peppers, and I like hot food, so I think I might have fun with peppers this year. Haven't fully decided yet. So that's it. We've done the planting part. So everything is done. Seeds are there. You'll notice when I was done, I moved my seeds away. The reason for that is I don't know when I'm going to get to them. One of the things we're now going to have to do is add moisture. I do not want moisture on the seeds I haven't prepped yet. I want them to stay dormant. So I do not want them getting warmth and moisture. Moisture and warmth individually is not great. It probably can result in your seeds being damaged and not lasting for very long. Together, they're finished. If you want to keep your seeds for a longer period of time, put them back in the pack, fold it up, a staple, a butterfly clip, a paper clip, cool, dry location, they're going to last. Okay, so we know we've got our depth. Now I put it in my tray, just like that, and I'm going to add my moisture. Okay, I use a spray bottle. The reason I use a spray bottle for this stage is a watering can, no matter how gentle you are, everybody can. You can go, oh, too much by mistake. You've instantly saturated that soil. There's no root. There isn't even a radicle. So that moisture is just sitting there until it's dried up. We've already talked about seed mold and damping off. I do this. I can control it and I can get it as damp as I want. This is all I'm doing. And I'm going to make it wet. I'm not just thinking that's done. I want that soil. And then the dry soil beneath the damp soil is going to pull the moisture down, coat the seed without there being a direct pour on it. So, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. But as you can see, I'm spraying this way. My seeds are over here. I don't want it mixed. And I put it here. I'm not doing it here. I don't want to turn any of the soil I've got here into mud. Again, we're keeping the area clean. So I'm just going to keep going. Now, some people I know, they want to get one of those spray bottles. We carry them here. I don't use them. Plus, I like the pink one. It makes me happy. It matches my scoop too. And my socks.
Coordinated.
I don't know if my socks showed up yet. I don't. I like how you said coordinated as I lost my balance. Coordinated. Oh yeah, back to the moisture. Some people, if you're doing a ton of seeds to give away, to plant, whatever, that can get old, especially if you're doing it 3 times a day. Your handles start cramping. They're all spray bottles and they've got a pump. It's a pressure. You pump it, it's pressured, and you can just hold the trigger down and do all of your seeds. That's the way you want to go do it. And you can use a watering can. You absolutely can. I don't like it at this stage. Once I have germination, once I know I have active growth, that's when I shift to a watering can. But again, it's not one size fits all. So again, I'm going to keep going because this isn't adding a lot of moisture. Okay, and so I did wet the middle one earlier, but you can see the others. That's what my soil looked like when I put it in. Gently. That's what my soil looks like now. You can see there's moisture everywhere. It's wet, it's damp, there's a weight difference. So I know that that moisture is in there. Now I'm going to lift all of this onto a standard heat mat. Most standard heat mats that you find are going to be about 10 by 20, somewhere, well, this one's stiff, it's brand new. And that is going to fit. I'm not going to use this because I've got enough in my office. This one is going to go back on the shelf. And that's going to sit right there. Ooh, is it going to go back on the shelf or are we going to give it away?
Would you give it away?
I knew you would go there. Again, Brandy likes to give everything away.
We give it away here?
Yeah, however you decide. Not to put any pressure on you, Brandy, but come up with a way to give this away. We're going to give away a heat mat. I know not everybody has one, and they are a game changer. Especially for tomatoes and peppers. The amount of times people have come up to me and said, "Oh, I can't grow tomatoes. They don't germinate. They don't work for me." And I talk them into getting a heat mat. It's a solid investment. It will last you forever. Literally, I've got heat mats. I've never changed them out. They still work. You only need it during this process. You're running it for maybe 2 months of the year. Then you're putting it away and bringing it out next year. It's not on all the time. And it's low power and it is a game changer. It genuinely is. You can see it's literally the size of my tray. So it is perfect. And then I would lift this, I would put it on my heat mat, and I'm done. Just want to check the moisture. And I want to make sure that that everything is good. So that is how we plant. That is how we do our layout. That is how we do everything. If you're doing a ton of seeds, okay, I'm just doing these for now. That's all the time we've got. But if you're doing a lot, again, you don't have to water them. It's not like transplanting a plant where you're like, oh, it needs water. The seed doesn't. It is fine in the soil until everything is planted. You put your tags in. Excuse me. You've got them on the heat mat, and you're ready to go. Water everything at the same time. Clean up as you go. Don't make a mess. Always keep that process going. This is the second last thing you do, or it can even be the last. You can put them on the heat mat first, then add your water. It's not going to hurt. but make sure your seeds are put away. Make sure your soil is cleaned up. Trust me, I've done things like this before. With a watering can or a bottle, I've knocked it over. I've ruined seeds. I've made an unholy mess. Um, Again, I'm not saying this because it has to be done. At the end of the day, you want to play a loosey goosey and put your water anywhere, you do you, man. I have the experience to know that when I've done it, I have made such a mess or ruined seeds. It's always better to do it last. So that's where you want to go. And I want to also talk about this. This soil that I have left here, okay, I'm going to scoop it up and I'm going to put it in these. Okay, reuse that soil. It's not bad soil because again, what did we do at the start? Our area was clean. There's no contamination. So I'm not spreading that contamination over. So that's what we do. We've planted them, we've checked each seed, we've watered them. Gonna give some tips and tricks now, and then we're on to Q&A. Wow, that time just flew by. I just did a time check and I was like, oops, gonna wrap this up. So again, do not fertilize. This does not require fertilizer. That food source is all it needs for now. Too much fertilizer can result in burn. It can result in too fast of active growth, exhaust the plant before it's had a chance to develop. My rule of thumb is when you transplant the first time, start your fertilizer process. You might find different things online. You may do something anecdotally that you've done through the years. I use that again as a rule of thumb. It's not a hard rule. Some people might not fertilize till it's in the garden. I know some people like that. Some people fertilize the moment they see the cotyledon. I like it when it's established enough. This whole chamber here is filled with roots. I know it's established to transplant, to ease transplant shock and start feeding it. That's when I fertilize. Move the lighting accordingly. Can't say that one enough. You put your light here at the beginning, you're like, that's great. You forget to check it, your plants are burning. It's up here, all your seedlings are ruined because they've got too late. So always check your light. Plant more than you need. Already talked about that. You want 9. You do this for whatever reason, only 4 grow. You're behind the game. You're like, oh, I gotta get, and then everything's at different stages. I want to touch on that. You may grow these now and then in a month start another batch. The reason for that is then you're going to be harvesting at different times. So having a staggered growth isn't the end of the world, but again, that comes from later on planning. We are going to do a webinar on garden planning. That isn't here, but that's things to think about. If you go, I want to be harvesting some tomatoes in June and July, and then some closer to the end of the season, start some now, start some in March, start some in April. However you want it to be. Use a fan. You want that air circulation. Plus, it's good when the seedling starts up to have a breeze going on it. When it goes outside, especially in Calgary, it's good. And I want to say a big thank you to everybody tuning in who isn't from Calgary. I believe we have somebody tuning in from Sri Lanka today.
Yeah, I saw Shavesh.
Yeah,
At least I hope it's the same Shavesh.
Yeah. So we've had people before: Australia, Brazil, England, Scotland, Ukraine. This is our first one from Sri Lanka. So hi and welcome. Obviously, we have our neighbors in America. We have our neighbors in Canada, but everybody is welcome to our webinars.
Yeah.
This one is for Brandy. Don't become too attached. Accidents happen, mistakes happen. You may break something. You may get seed mold. Grow more than you want. It is better to consolidate instead of trying to save them from seed mold and doing all of that and then realizing 2 weeks after you can't do it. Scrap them, sterilize, start again. Okay? I understand we've done that work and we see the germination and we're excited. I get it. I genuinely do. I really do. I feel that way. But there are times where it's better to cut our losses to have that end game success rather than to fight and struggle with just a few plants at the beginning. Again, that's a personal choice, but I can't advise that enough. Label everything. I am notorious for this, where when it's fresh in my mind, I go, those are millions, and those are my peppers, and those are my beefsteaks. And then they start growing, and I go, what was that? And then when I go to move them outside, I'm not sure which one can go in the front, back. I don't know how big they're going to get because I didn't label. Plastic label, popsicle stick, whatever you got, a Sharpie, stick it in, peace of mind later on. It's worth its weight in gold to invest that, $5 in 10 minutes. And watering is going to change. I've talked about adjusting your light. I briefly touched on it. Once I have my seedlings, I swap to a watering can. You can't think that the same amount of water is going to sustain your plant all the way through. So be reactive to that. And always, always remember, this is for house plants, garden plants, raised planters, pots, hanging baskets. It is better if somebody comes to me and they have two plants, one is chronically overwatered, one is chronically underwatered. I have a much better chance. Like, I can't even give you how much better it is for me to save the underwatered one as opposed to the overwatered one. Don't get me wrong, neither of them are great. We want to hit that watermark bang on. But underwatering is savable. Overwatering, bugs, mold, other diseases come in. Saturation, suffocation. Want to stay away from that. So keep an eye on that. And that wraps us up. There's more to talk about. Holy moly, these webinars go by quick. Thank you for being here. Stay tuned. We're going to go to Q&A, but in the next week or two, our entire webinar schedule will be up for the season. We love to see you. The GA Kids TV, the podcast, the webinars are truly mine and Brandy's labors of love. There are projects that we are definitely the most connected to. And without having my audience, it would be pretty pointless. It's me yelling at plants. And Brandy.
You're yelling at me.
Yeah, basically. So if there's any questions, we're all ears.